Let's begin with the rain. I mean, we had Anthony Clark the other day, one of our analysts, talking about the impact of those rains around Gauteng and around South Africa in general. But you are on the ground. Have you seen any work disrupted by the rains, and to what extent do you think it will impact the business going forward?
Well, yeah, January has definitely been a very wet month. About 3 times the average rainfall in Gauteng for January. And it has got an impact on construction, especially if you're building roads. Very difficult. The freeway improvement projects have been affected. You know, there's been very severe flooding around, so that has got an impact. We're still busy trying to assess that. You know, the rain has let up a little bit, sort of going into February now. Although judging by last night, you wouldn't have thought that. But
right. I was going to ask if you're able to quantify the impact.
Not yet. We're still busy assessing that, but there has been an impact.
Yeah. Now, President Zuma last week was at Davos, and he spoke about a number of things, but we'll concentrate on the things that are relevant to us. Now, he spoke about South Africa's construction program going forward, and he declared that he sees it continuing. Do you share his optimism? And do you also see the workflow coming through onto your books, matching the rhetoric on the ground?
I think that's one. There has been some slow sort of rolling out of some of the projects and that. We are managing to keep our order book. We had last year, I think at our interims, we had about 1.2 billion on our order book. At this point in time, it's just under 1 billion. So we're sort of keeping that forward pipeline going. I think it's a question at the moment in the construction industry, you know, put your faith in God, but keep the powder dry. You know, I think we've got a little bit of a rough period going forward. There's a bit of a hiatus in the industry at the moment. A lot of people looking for a lot of work. I think you've got to box smart and, you know, but still have faith in the government's infrastructure spend going forward.
Yeah, and I suppose that's a problem for the industry, isn't it, when you have a lot of people looking for work, because then you now start looking at those contracts, and where ordinarily you'd have said, I can't take these margins because the risk is much higher here. You will step back and say, and you probably would have to take on risk that ordinarily you wouldn't want to take. Has that been happening, and are we seeing that increasing, and therefore your profit margins, you guys, coming down?
It has, but I think you can't muddle up markup and margin. I think people are marking up less, but you have to execute the contract to make the margin.
Right.
And that's where I say you have to be clever. You've got to cross the T's, dot the I's, make sure that you get every penny that you can out of the profits on that contract.
Yeah. Some of the big guys, I remember last year when the results came through, we saw some of those profit margins, operating profit margins, at least around just under the 10% mark. Where do you stand, and do you see yourselves being able to maintain that going forward? I
think our our operating margins are somewhere in the region between 17–18%. We're likely.
You're not complaining. So
we're going to be okay. Yeah, our PAT numbers are, you know, likely to be around 10% or something like that.
What about that order book? Are you seeing work being easier to get now, and where does it stand now? And also, I suppose January being January, people coming back from the holidays and starting to look at those books again, order flow wouldn't be very thick, would it?
No, it's always a little bit slow, but we were quite lucky on our pipelines division. We did pick up quite a few contracts coming into the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
We got a job for the Rand Water, about 240 million, BG3 contract, and we picked up some work in what was the old Ciskei down, you know, on the border with KwaZulu-Natal, and some work near the Steelpoort area as well. So that's put our pipeline division in a very, very good position for this year.
Yeah, and the outlook going forward, you see work perhaps increasing as the year gets by, or are we likely to see a lull after the World Cup? Because it's such a big high, surely there ought to be some kind of come down, if you like.
Well, I think I'm bucking the trend a little bit on World Cup. I think World Cup's going to be an absolute fantastic event. I think it's going to be well organised, going to go off very, very well. Looking forward to it as well. And I think that there's going to be such a spirit of euphoria after the World Cup that, you know, happy people spend money, and hopefully the government will be happy and they'll carry on spending money as well.
Yeah, indeed. Now, in terms of the work that you're seeing, where are you seeing most of the work coming through? We spoke about the impact of the rains on the road, so perhaps that work is not quite moving along fast as much as you would like. But in other areas, are you seeing work increasing?
Well, we think that SANRAL are going to carry on with their spend. They seem to be well organised as far as that's concerned. We also see some work probably coming out of Transnet and through the ports as well. And then we will look to increasing our base and workload in Africa as well.